Hey YouTube, welcome back to UniXDVS, and it's been a little bit, so we're gonna hop in and put out some more content. I apologize for some of the drought. It's like there's a lot of things going on. Work, life, like actual life is becoming a little stuffy. There's some things that need to get rearranged. Of course, the other channels are a little more touch and go, mainly just because of the fact that it's a lot easier to just play games and record those games than to actually come up with content. Because like I said, I don't like doing filler. I don't like doing videos just to be doing videos. So I like coming up with stuff that actually has some concrete weight to it, you know, when I do make content for you guys. And I've also been doing some stuff in the background for Dragon Ball Super that I'll hopefully be able to go live with soon. I'm just really happy to be able to do stuff. So with that being said, I just want to give the normal plugs before we jump into the video. We've got the Facebook group that's official. That's where we get the official announcements and the spoilers. We've got the discussion group where we discuss all these things. You've got the Reddit where it's more of a text-based forum of information. You've got the Universe X Discord where we talk about literally anything Wii related, game related, you know, Dragon Ball related. If you want more Universe X content that's not necessarily with the card games, we have got UniX Gacha as well as UniX DB, where I play Gacha games, Dragon Ball games, you know, just what is what it is. In the future, as long as the game piques my interest, I will be probably doing coverage on the One Piece game coming up, because I do love me some One Piece. So look out for that. Might start off some videos on this channel. If there's enough interest to be garnered, I might make a second channel. We will see. That being said, now that's quick, short, precise, got that out of the way. I'm never gonna forget that comment, bro. I will never forget that comment. I'm gonna tag you again in this video because I'll never forget that comment. But now that's being said, just want to give a last shout out to TCGMetalZ. They host their own tournaments monthly with great prizes. They make crazy cool metal leader cards. We've got some really good stuff coming up from Realm of the Gods. I'm still doing a giveaway, just kind of waiting for shipments and stuff to kind of pan out. And yeah, by the end of this video, if you like the content, think about hitting that subscribe button, notification button, comment on the video, like the video, help it trend, let me know what you think about it. But yes, we are going to go in and hit up the topic of the upcoming meta for the Fest. So we got two tournaments. One in Texas, one in Florida. They happen within a week of each other. Texas is happening in about 2 weeks. Florida is happening in about, well, I guess a week. Florida is happening, or Texas is happening in a week and a half. Florida is happening like 2 weeks and a half, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. So with that being said, we will have a meta kind of going into this, and I think it's shaping up pretty clean. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the meta. Now, the first thing I want to put out here is a lot of people misconstrue the word meta. They think that the meta means the best decks. Well, generally, the meta will be full of the best decks, but the meta doesn't necessarily mean the best decks. The meta means the most popular decks. You can have a deck that is very hard to pilot, but very good, and it could be the best deck in format. But if it's very hard to pilot, therefore leading to more people fumbling the bag with it instead of taking top places, it won't be the meta. Or the deck could have a very high cap in terms of entry cost, like Invoker. Invoker is two of these things. You have to pilot Invoker very well, but you also have to shell out hella money for Apex and now these new Android 17s. So Apex could, for all we know, be best deck in format, but it would never be meta because you're not going to see every single player in a tournament with an Apex. That's just not going to work. Invoker will never kind of hit that. So yeah, when it comes to the meta, I do want to talk about the decks that I do think are going to be popular. First and foremost, it is no surprise. Red U7 Goku is going to be there. His entire deck pretty much came out in one set, along with the secret rare. You don't have to dive into older packs to pick up cards for this guy, like maybe some of your auxiliary cards, but his boss cards, the staples for the deck, even the super combo, all out of this set. So you really don't have to go further than just buying tons of Realm of the Gods. And seeing it's one of the hottest sets that come out in quite some time, since maybe even set 9, yeah, it's going to be a meta deck. It will be all around. You need to know this matchup. Some of its pros, it's got easy pressure. It's got cards that do an incredibly high amount of things for 1 energy. 1 energy to minus 15k something and swing twice for 19, minus an energy to swing and with sparking conditions met, be double strike, but also search top 3 for an archetype card. Recursion of a secret rare that could potentially take 7 life if it connects twice and then removes itself for game. It's got a whole lot of stuff. You got a counterplay that can just completely paperclip your opponent. You know, you pay an energy, you kill something 15 or less, you draw a card to replace stuff in hand, and it's a 19k swinger afterwards. There's a whole lot this deck does. It's got a nasty finisher in the form of that secret rare, and you don't have to worry about milling it because the leader can recur it. It's a very, very strong tempo deck. Between the ability to play these threats for cheap and then have a counterplay, plus red's normal cards, it's a very, very, very strong tempo deck. However, the one thing about this deck that I will say, two things actually. One, it mills, and with self-mill comes a increase in variance. You could side in 3 cards for a specific matchup and mill 2 of those cards and have the other one in life. There's no guarantee that you're going to see all the copies of a card that you put in the deck, especially when you're going to be bursting 3 per turn. Maybe depending on where you want to accelerate, you might even burst 6 on your awakening turn, but that's kind of rough. It also is going to allow you to be susceptible to certain decks, like Janemba could hurt it to a degree, because the game could get dragged on very, very long, and then you can have them on the clock, and they've already gone through a fair amount of their deck in the beginning of the game before they stop. Oceanus is a freaking monster to this deck, and you can run Vegeta Resolve Renewed. You can also run Broly Crown of Retribution, but at the same time, again, there's no guarantee that you're going to see the amount of copies you need. You may mill all of them. You may mill 2, not C1. You may mill 1, not C2. You could potentially C1, and then, you know, they still have 2 more Oceanus that they sided in, you know, pre-side. So the deck is going to put you in some weird places just because of how it's built. But this deck is easy to play, provides solid results. Lots of people will be playing this deck, and it's a strong contender. And because of this, because of it being the de facto best red deck, this is going to be a meta deck. I see this deck being the most played deck coming up at the fest. Second, you got Trunks and Vegeta. Why? Because it's an easy lateral from Icarus. If you're playing Icarus, this is the closest deck you could play to feel like Icarus is back in business. The strengths though, you know, like I said, it's an easy lateral. Lots of the cards that you bought and you want to keep playing can be shifted directly over into Trunks. It's got a built-in Champa, and so not only do you not have to waste a single slot in your deck, maybe even 2 depending on how aggressive you're trying to be, but you also don't even have to like worry about that consistency. The moment you have the combo power and the cooler in hand to check your opponent, you can just easy in, easy out because it's on your leader. So that's a huge part of the deck. Now, the other kind of issue is, well, it's also got a good boss card. I forgot about that. 35k crit that can go triple strike. It's got a really good boss card. But the main issues with the deck, not as much draw as Icarus. Because of this, lots of people don't understand that Icarus's main thing were 2 parts. It had the smallest core archetype deck has ever seen, which is 4 vanillas. And it was drawing so much that it was plussing while all of your good red cards or yellow cards cantripped, making you get put in a position where you're always seeing new cards and they're stringing together their effects. You don't get this when you are playing with Trunks. Trunks draws, but not nearly as much as Icarus, and that makes there are times where you can get your defenses punched through and you're sitting there with holes in your hand wondering why this is happening. I'm playing yellow. And then on top of that, the core is thicker. I mean, you need the boss card at 2 depending on the deck, maybe even 3 depending on your build. You got to play 4 of each of the 1-drops, and right then and there you're already running like double, like you're running double, almost triple the amount of archetype specific cards that Icarus would have to run, and that is more deck space than you like to think. 4 versus 10 is a huge difference. Now, moving to the last deck, I think, of the established meta, I'm just going to say Soul Striker. The reasons why I'm putting it here is because it's Soul Striker, but the weaknesses of the deck is also because it's Soul Striker, if that makes sense. The deck is still going to do the same things it was doing. It's still got the almighty baby hatch. It still has D-Magic, it still has Senzu Bean. If you splash yellow, you have access to lightning fast Kefla. It's just crazy. Or lightning speed Kefla. On top of that, you are still though relying on a 3-drop unison to go off, and so that makes your opponent have a specific finite window to put you in a position of hurt where you really can't do anything but take it. If your opponent goes first and they can lean into the more aggressive side, i.e. Red Goku in the U7 variant, King Piccolo, you're going to be sitting at a point where their 3 energy turn, where you're on 2 energy, is going to be the scariest of your life, because they essentially, you're at the mercy of how well they drew. Even if you survive, you're bleeding your hand to the point where you awaken and your hand is so subpar in terms of size that they might be able to bully you. Even if you have the hatch, you play the hatch on their turn 4, your turn 3, you have that one turn to kind of stabilize yourself, and you got to like deal with them trying to close out their game while you've been severely weakened. Now, coming out of that, you got the Oddballers. These are decks that I think are very, very powerful, but they just won't be meta. And the reason why I don't think they're going to be meta is because at the beginning of a format, especially when a set just dropped, lots of people don't want to play stuff that's not new. Lots of people don't want to play things that aren't, you know, completely just fresh, because they feel like the format's been stale. Now, Soul Striker kind of gets around this, because Soul Striker is just Blue's only real viable tournament deck at the moment. And so if you want to play Blue, if you're a Blue player, you're probably going to play Soul Striker. But the other colors have other alternatives. You might see a bunch of people playing Black Trunks, despite Black Trunks kind of being the inferior deck to Gogeta Zeno at this very moment, in my opinion. Could very well be wrong about that. I don't want to be wrong about that, because I really do like Trunks, but that's just the kind of vibe I was getting from testing. And these decks, I have 3 of them here. Sin Shinron. Sin Shinron is just so strong. Sin Shinron has the ability to block you for days. Sin Shinron has the ability to blow up your weenies. They have the ability to make barrier blockers. They have revenge blockers that just kill all of your effects when they come into play, making it so that you only have your autos that happen when you come into play. You've got your ability to search your deck very, very well. You've got your ability to punish people for swinging with boss cards that don't have barrier or some sort of protection clause. You have the ability to put triple strike swingers on board for 1 energy and swing, backed by Cooler Swift Retaliation on 4 energy. You have the ability to do so much. You can sit there and spam somebody with the Rage Shinron for critical damage. You can remove Rage Shinron with the 8-drop to hit them for critical damage on a 30k. That goes up to 40k. 35k. There's so much you can do with this deck. It can be aggro, it can be, you know, kind of a tempo based deck, it can be a very defensive wally deck, but once you get to turn 6, it is almost impossible to outvalue this deck. They can tap 6, bring back as many Shadow Dragons as possible, including their secret rare, which is a blocker that do not quit, and even if you get rid of it by minusing it, which can only happen in certain colors, Cock Red, they can bring it back next turn they tap 6. So you are on a clock, and in this clock of 6 turns, your opponent can press you hard, they can control your board, they can just try to chip away at you and then wear you down every turn by tapping 6. So on top of that, they have the ability to play yellow cards like, you know, Forbidden Power and you know, potentially Riposte if they felt like they could work it. So Sin Shinron is very, very strong. The only good part about Sin Shinron in the format right now for other players is the Realm of the Gods cards are a significant help. Even if they draw 2 and replace a ball on the field, you still get rid of one of their 9-drops, and that allows you to open up your plays again. So Realm of the Gods, that whole rotation is actually very good. Another really oddball, it's very strong, but maybe not going to be the most represented, Gogeta Zeno. It didn't lose enough to make it a bad deck. You know, Sun Goku, True Fighting Spirit is now on a unique basis, but at the same time, what you're really looking at is it still has thwarting, it still has the blocker that can remove weenies through barrier, or actually small cards through barrier. It still has the ability to amass these things. It gained a new asset in the Super Saiyan God Trunks. He can be played and just like wreak havoc, make sure that you always have overwhelm. The deck is actually just in still a very good place, so you should expect to see it. Maybe not in mass, but you should still expect to see it. The other one is King Piccolo. King Piccolo is the moment the format shifted, it got to a good place and it can ball. You can still play Divine Presence. You can still play quite a few things. So do not sleep on King Piccolo. It is still a very strong deck and can be very, very aggressive. Now when it comes to Rogue, you know how Rogue is. Anything can pretty much happen to Rogue. Anything. You really aren't trying to anticipate Rogue because that's the whole point of Rogue. Rogue could be Champa. Rogue could be Swap Deborah, but I'm gonna be real, if you get clapped by Swap Deborah, I'm laughing at you. Rogue can be a great deal of things. It's just that it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to see where that value is gonna come from in terms of what decks are being played. But like I said, that's the whole point of it being Rogue. When it comes to Invoker, Invoker is still a powerful deck, but you will need the 17 promos for it to go from a deck that could have been played at any time to a deck that you may want to play now. The best pilots for Invoker will still be able to play Invoker flawlessly. Sometimes that's not enough, especially when aggro ruins the format. Right now, we are moving into a format that has a lot more mid-range, some slower decks. Invoker should eat those decks apart. But at the same time, without as much aggro, Invoker has a chance to be comfortable again. And once this 17 gets in circulation, Invoker has a very high chance of being comfortable again. That being said, like I said, the entry cost is very, very high for Invoker. Nobody's trying to just go out and buy an Apex to play in a couple tournaments. And at least for Texas, Florida, maybe a different story, but at least for Texas, you probably shouldn't see Invoker with the new promo. These tournaments are happening the week before Texas. So that's a week for them to tally up their winners, send out their prizing, have the people send out or put up their post in Facebook, wherever they may, TCG player, have those cards be sold, and then have those cards be shipped out to the people. And that's all in 1 week. And you can't even count a full week because the people are probably gonna leave to go to Texas on Friday, some even Thursday. So it's kind of really rough, but Texas should not really have circulation of this Android 17 promo. Now, Florida, there's only an additional week, but with lots of the prizing that we've gotten in the past, a week hasn't been enough to get your prizing most of the time. It's been 2 weeks sometimes. And if that's the case, we're in the same situation. 2 weeks to get your prizing and then flip it and then ship it, and then you have to get it before you leave. Doesn't sound likely. So I actually don't feel like Invoker is going to be much of a force in these Fest tournaments. Perhaps in Florida, definitely not in Texas, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my thought on the upcoming Fest meta. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know lots of people have been kind of testing already, so you may already know this, but just in case you don't, I just kind of wanted to go over it in my opinion with the pluses and the minuses of each of these decks. The other thing I wanted to just put out there is that Gogeta's weakness will be the fact that it's a variance king. It's high roll, low roll, and it's even more so now because some of the consistency cards were hit, like the Trunks. King Piccolo doesn't really have too many pluses or minuses for me. It's a grind king. It's master the grind. It recycles so many cards that you grind all day long with Piccolo. Minuses, it's an old deck, and it doesn't feel dated necessarily, but people know what it does. There's no shock factor, and it doesn't really have extremes. Nothing in the Piccolo deck screams like holy crap, but it does what it does incredibly well. And other decks that do have these factors that scream holy crap may be able to kind of get a leg up and trample on it. So I hope you guys liked the video. We're back at another 18-minute. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys liked the content, and I will see you guys the next time you decide to join Universe X. Thanks, and later.